Hello there, and thanks for joining us on this 7-day cruise on board the brand new NCL Luna. On this trip, we left from Miami and we are going to visit the Dominican Republic, St. Thomas, Tortola, and NCL's private island, Great Stirrup Cay in the Bahamas. And unfortunately, on this trip, we did have to tender in Great Stirrup Cay as NCL is still building out the pier for the cruise ships to dock to in Great Stirrup Cay at this point. So, on embarkation day in Miami, we park off lot and we let the parking lot shuttles handle the port traffic in Miami. It's pretty terrible to negotiate, so if you're parking at the port, my tip to you is leave early and get there as early as possible because it's pretty ugly sometimes there. So,
There's the Luna.
It's smaller than I thought.
we were definitely looking forward to this cruise since we had such a great experience on the launch of the NCL Aqua last year. But one tip, get your dining reservations for any of your specialty dining at 120 days out from your sailing, or else you may not get the times you want. But you can do what we did here and try and change them once you get on board. The line can be a bit long. Unfortunately, NCL does not allow you to drop your luggage in your room before the rooms are ready, unlike some other cruise lines that will allow you to do so. So plan on lugging your luggage around until after 1 p.m. We did end up going to Indulge Food Hall for lunch because we know better than to go to the not nearly large enough buffet on these class of ships. And this is going to be a little more comfortable environment to kind of lug your luggage around and sit down in. Here are the pads that you can order food on in Indulge Food Hall. And the food here was generally pretty good, but there were some other dining experiences on board that were a bit of a letdown, and we'll talk about those experiences as we go through the video. On this cruise, we did get 3 specialty dining as part of our Free at Sea Plus package. We ended up going to Cagney Steakhouse, we ended up at Himitsu for teppanyaki, and Sukhothai for some Thai food, and we'll show those as we go along a little bit later and kind of discuss it. We also did eat in the main dining. We went to Hudson's one evening and we went to the Commodore room on 2 other occasions for dining as well. So we'll kind of show that and kind of discuss the differences between those areas. One of our dinner experiences at night was also back here at Indulge Food Hall. We would typically go here for lunch, which is what we're going to show you now, some of the different food that you can get here and what it looks like. And the dinner menu in Indulge is a slightly different menu, so don't expect to get exactly the same thing you get at lunch. All right, now sailing out of Miami is always a really picturesque port to sail out of. We had a great view from the Vibe Beach Club, which we did choose to purchase on this particular cruise, so we could try it out and see if the experience is worth the extra $560 or so that we spent on this venue. So on this cruise, we ended up paying full price for this cruise. We typically pay for all of our cruises that we do go on, and this one was a little bit expensive for us, but we'll go through all of that later, and at the very end of the video we'll actually break down exactly how much we spent on all of the different things that we got on this cruise. The Vibe Beach Club was something that we'll discuss later as we didn't really necessarily think it was worth the cost in this particular situation, but that's also going to be up to the person and what they're looking for out of their cruise experience. So later on, we'll go through everything at the end and show you all that. But here we are kind of getting out of Miami. Seriously, a very pretty port to get out of here. All the way down Miami Beach here as it goes out. So on this cruise, we also ended up getting a spa package for the thermal suite, and that ended up being another $698. The thermal spa that's on board both the Aqua and the Luna are exceptionally nice spas at sea. The thermal spa on these is actually the nicest thermal spa experience we have ever had on any ship, anywhere on any cruise. So just to throw that out there, It's a little bit expensive to do it. We have heard that sometimes you can get it a little bit less expensive if you book it early or you get it on a sale. That happens every once in a while, but for the most part, the spa experience is going to be about $350 a person for the 7-day cruise. Now, the Vibe Beach Club here, missing a bunch of umbrellas. Certainly not exactly what we were hoping for. And those cabanas are an extra cost, so don't think that you're getting those as part of the Vibe Beach Club's basic package that you get. The onboard entertainment that we had on the Luna was not necessarily as good as we were hoping for. We really enjoyed the performances that we got on the Aqua. And it's not that these were bad performances, they were entertaining, but they were certainly not nearly as good in our opinion as they were on the Aqua. Now, here is our first dining experience at Cagney's Steakhouse. It was a little bit later, we were unable to kind of get it changed, but we did end up making it in and getting a first night dining experience here in Cagney's, which is a little bit hard to get into. The food was a little bit of a letdown, to be honest. That was the smallest crab cake I've ever seen. She ended up having to send her steak back because it wasn't done correctly. And so there we go. Now, our second day was a day at sea. And if you would like a full tour of everything that is in the thermal spa that they do offer on board here, there is a full ship tour that will be at the end of this video that you can go watch, where I do a huge walkthrough of the entire thermal spa with one of the employees that works in the spa and gave us a full tour. So if you'd like to see that, that's absolutely something you can go do. It's probably more complete than this will be, but they really do have a very, very nice thermal spa, as you can kind of tell by how relaxed I am there up in the front of the ship. We did end up braving the lunch buffet before we headed up to the Vibe Beach Club, where we could spend a little bit of time relaxing on our day at sea here. Unfortunately, as you can tell, that's a little bit overcast and a little bit windy, so sometimes that's not always the best experience out there. But we also tried to go over and do the drop, which on this particular cruise, it didn't work a lot of the time and I never got the experience. This is one of the new areas on board the Luna. This is the Luna Midway, and it is free to use, even though you see you're tapping the card there. When we went on this, it is completely free to use. It's just kind of a fun little addition that they do have here on board. That is just about impossible to be able to do. I was never able to get that bowling ball where it was supposed to be. This is a carryover from the Aqua. This is their virtual, I guess, mini golf that they do have. It's kind of an interactive mini golf. I'm doing it a little bit backwards here, but you do start up here on the end of this section. This right here is kind of where you're going to start, and then you'll work your way back down. Do be careful up there. It kind of gets a little bit wet because it is combined here in this area with the Aqua slide coaster. Now, unfortunately for those paying passengers, you will not get to take your camera through that ride, unfortunately. So, our dinner that evening was here in Hudson's, and we had a decent meal here. We didn't come back and do it again, but it was a pretty good dining experience. It wasn't as good as the dining experience that we had in Hudson's when we were on the Aqua. It just simply didn't live up. Those lobsters are not free. Those twin lobster tails are an additional cost that she did end up spending and getting. She really saw that on the Aqua and kind of wanted to do it on this one as well. And then that night was a tribute to the Eagles. So our next day, we ended up in Puerto Plata in the Dominican Republic. We did get there pretty early, and as a result, I ended up needing to go to Starbucks to get something to wake up. They don't open Starbucks until 6:30, which is a little bit crazy, in my opinion, but that's how their timing is there. And we ended up getting Starbucks for free as part of the Free at Sea Plus that we upgraded to. The Free at Sea Plus is something where you get all your gratuities and your Wi-Fi included. And then we also got some other like 50% off any additional specialty dining, free Starbucks, free bottled water goes along with it, because you don't get free bottled water normally with the free at sea package. So here in the Dominican Republic, we decided to go walk around the actual town instead of stay in the port area, because we really have never really done that. Just kind of go see what the little town around there is like, just to give you a little bit of a kind of a excursion little trip that's free. You can go do some shopping over here. They have all kinds of little shops if you don't want to stay inside the port area. It's not anything that's spectacular, but it's just a little bit of a different experience than what you're going to get inside the port area that's been set aside for the cruise ships here in Tino Bay. In Tino Bay, they have a really nice pool and beach area, lazy river, shops, bars, restaurants. You kind of can walk through here and get the idea. It's a nice little experience if you want to come through here. Today was a very rainy day, as you can tell, so we decided we'd go ahead and make it a bit of a in-town experience for that day. And at this point of our walking tour, Vicky and I decided to really run on back to the ship because it had started to rain, and when we got back there were actually no covered areas outside the ship, unlike some of the other cruise lines that we have been on. That night was our second specialty dining experience, and we went to Himitsu and got teppanyaki for the evening. It's always a fun time when you go in to get teppanyaki. The show is always entertaining. The food was really good. We really enjoyed the food. The entertainment experience was all kinds of fun. The only downside that we ran into was they kind of overstuffed the table. Vicky ended up getting stuck over on the end there. This was really teppanyaki for 8, and they squoze 9 in, so she ended up sitting between me and their wash sink. So unfortunately, she kind of had to deal with them washing their hands and splashing water a little bit around her. But the food was really good, and the entertainment was fantastic, as you can see her right there by the sink. We did end up going into Sid Norman's Poorhouse for one of the only shows that they actually put on here. On the Aqua, it was used much more effectively for a lot of different performances. Here we ended up seeing Nil and Sand, one of the only 2 performances we even noticed on board, and this is the only one we could even get into. Really wasn't used very well in Sid Norman's Poorhouse for entertainment purposes. The very next day, we ended up heading over to Charlotte Amalie in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we've been to St. Thomas a number of times. We decided we would go ahead and stay on board and save a little bit of our time to kind of film and do some other things we needed to do for this trip. But it also saved us some money, so we didn't have to pay for any excursions. The thing we do try and do most of the time is save as much as we can on excursions, because they do tend to get a little bit expensive as you go on a lot of different cruises. There are a bunch of taxi buses that are out here that you can actually go get on if you want to go to one of the beaches, and there are all kinds of tours you can do. You can also head on up to the top of the mountain there. They do have a sky ride that is only about a 10-minute walk from the ship, and it costs about $25 a person to walk over to it if you want to do something fun and cheap and easy there. Our dinner that night was in the Commodore room. It is one of the free dining options you have on board. The Hudson's is the other one. They are both complimentary as part of your standard dining package. Now, we enjoy going in the Commodore room a little bit more. It was quicker service. We found the food to be a little better, a little bit nicer there. And then that night we ended up heading off to Sonata, where we were actually allowed to record, which is not something that you are allowed to do in any of the other performances on board the Luna or the Aqua, and that no recording on those other performances is really aggressively enforced, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here as we end up arriving in Tortola for our excursion that we did actually pay for on board. So we ended up going over to White Bay on this particular excursion. It is on the island of Jost van Dyke. The reason we pay for it is it's really a whole nother island. It's a 45-minute boat ride. There's no easy way to get back. So in order to guarantee that we make it back in time for our cruise departure, which is at 2 p.m. in the afternoon most of the time in Tortola, we do go ahead and pay for it just to make sure that we are guaranteed that the ship's going to wait for us to get back. It's just one of those that we tend to do. We really enjoy coming over here. It's an absolutely beautiful sail over. They have a really beautiful beach there. There's just some nice little time to relax, time to grab a little snack at one of the little beachside restaurants. You want to grab something to drink over here, you're more than welcome to do so. It's home of the Soggy Dollar, the original painkiller. It's a really famous little bar that they do have out here on the beach. So now this is a little bit different than the one we did on the Aqua. They ended up taking us to a different port instead of taking the catamaran right into White Bay. They took us over to this other little port area where they could dock, and they ended up busing us over. And kind of a nice little experience. We got a nice view on the way over, but here we are going ahead and walking on out to the beach for our little experience. If you do go on this excursion, just try and grab one of the beach chairs out here as quickly as you can. They do tend to fill up a little bit. The beach chairs and umbrellas are free with an asterisk. They do kind of ask you to buy something, some food or something to drink if you're going to go out and grab the beach chairs and umbrellas in front of one of the restaurants. We end up going over here to Hendo's hideout. The food at Hendo's is really good. You can come over here and grab a couple of beach chairs and an umbrella. They don't charge you for them, and the food that you get there is really good. I'm not going to say it's super cheap, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to grab yourself a really nice beach chair and umbrella and kind of a nice day out here in White Bay. Now, I'm going to kind of talk about some of the experiences that you're going to have as a regular passenger compared to one of NCL's invited guests, travel agent, influencers. The experience that you have is going to be different. They allow them to record during the shows. They will provide them with maybe a little bit nicer experience that's more tailored to something that'll show up on their videos. They are allowed to take their cameras on things like the Aqua Slide Coaster, something that you are absolutely not allowed to do. The aggressive enforcement of no recording inside those shows is almost to the point of making the show not nearly as entertaining. They will come down and block people's view. They will flash lights at people. They will do whatever they need to do to keep you from recording, and it is very aggressive during those shows, especially during things like Hiko, the Eagles performance, those types of shows. During the Elton John show that was on board this, they were aggressively stopping people from recording. So I'm just giving you a heads up that your experience is going to be a little bit different than what you see from some of those influencers. Now, as we're kind of walking along here, we're going to go back to White Bay here, and I'll kind of give you the nice little experience here. You can walk over this area here and get on over to the other side of White Bay. There's a couple little places you can come eat over here. If you're going to walk over there, bring shoes, some sort of beach shoes, some sandals, something, because that walk over these rocks here is going to be pretty rough on your feet. So unless you were born with naturally thick calluses, bring some sandals. It's a little bit rough on your feet. But this island is absolutely beautiful to come visit. The water and the color is incredible over here on Jost Van Dyke. This is the Soggy Dollar, home of the original painkiller. They have their own restaurant where you can grab coffees, you can get snacks over here, you can get some food over here. And then there are a few other little places you can walk down here and kind of see what there is. It's really just a nice big relaxing day where you can spend it in the water. There are millions of dollars of charter catamarans that come up over here and kind of invade the beach on a daily basis. So just be prepared for that. You'll get to see some really nice boats sometimes over here. But that being said, there's also some fun things to come over here and do and just kind of spend your day doing. But I'll let you kind of enjoy the rest of the tour out here in White Bay so you get an idea of what it is like out here. Now, hopefully as you enjoy this little walkthrough of Jost Van Dyke and White Bay, you've been able to get something helpful or useful or find something entertaining in this video. And if you have, please do give us a like and a subscribe. It really does help the channel, and we really appreciate it when everybody does that for us. And here we are heading back a little bit too soon, as the cruise ships tend to depart really early out of Tortola. We were getting back here right around 1 o'clock because the ship was departing around 2. So it was a pretty quick departure and stay here in Tortola. Now that evening we did end up going to Sukhothai for the last of our specialty dining. It was a really good experience. We really enjoy the food here at Sukhothai. You can get all the appetizers you pretty well want there. It's 3 appetizers a person and then a main dish as part of your specialty dining experience. So you can order quite a bit of food with the appetizers and your main dish. It's certainly not shorting you there. Now, our next day was a day at sea, where we started heading back the other direction. And this is kind of where I'd like to give a little bit of our experience on board. We found that the experience on board the Luna was not as nice as what we experienced on the Aqua. Everything from the crew not being quite as friendly or smiling, to some of the food not being as good and the entertainment not being as good as we had kind of expected, unfortunately. So that being said, it wasn't a bad cruise, but it certainly didn't live up to what we certainly were expecting for our time on board. The Vibe Beach Club really didn't live up to what we really expected for the cost. We were really hoping for a little more options for umbrellas and shade, and to be able to use it maybe a little bit more than we did. The time we spent down here getting dinner ahead of time for the Elton show was actually really good down in the Indulge Food Hall. But then when you go to having a performance like Elton here, and it literally filling the theater in less than 5 minutes because the theater is just way too small and everybody is squeezing in, kind of ruins some of the experience, even as good as the performers are and the show was. So our last stop of the cruise was at NCL's private island in Great Stirrup Cay. They did tender us in because they are still building the pier here. They're still trying to get it all done. They are improving the island. There are still some improvements that are coming. They're going to do an entire water park and a huge welcome center rather than just this little drop-off area that they have. Since the last time we were here, this whole section is additional space that they have actually done improvements on. From the kids' water park area over here, they've also added this really nice pool area called the Lagoon area. It is something that is a huge improvement over what they used to have. And kind of a weird thing that I've noticed is that they have umbrellas over everything here. All the chairs in the pool area have umbrellas if you want shade. There's a nice bar. The pool area is huge. There's plenty of space for people to kind of either get shade or a chair or grab something to eat. It's kind of a little bit different than what we're going to see later on from some of the older areas that are still being used on the island. There's another nice view as we're kind of walking over the bridge. That bridge is going to end up leading over to the nice new welcome area that they are still constructing as part of the pier that they're adding on here so that they can at least bring in a couple of ships at a time. So this is just a completed section that at the moment really the bridge just provides for a nice view but doesn't really lead you to anywhere. So it's a kind of a fun little thing to just watch the boats and get a view from at the moment. Now we're going to go ahead and head back the other way past the pool that you see there and kind of give you a little bit of the beach area as we head back across where a lot of this island already was existing before. And it's this beach area that really doesn't provide necessarily a great experience. They've added these venues here, the Abaco Taco stand and the barbecue area. These are all new. These are some nice new venues you can come grab something to eat at. But once you get past all of this taco and barbecue area and you get back out to the beach areas here, you're just gonna find a bunch of beach chairs in the sand and no shade, no umbrellas, beach chairs that are kind of just been out here doing nothing, and the only shade you're gonna get is underneath one of those palm trees. You can come over here and get a mask and a snorkel and go snorkel out there if you wish to rent it or bring your own. But if you're looking for shade or you're looking for really nice sand or something like that, you'll notice that there's really not a lot of people out here using this area, and they really just haven't kind of improved this area to go along with the pool space. They do still have the buffets that are out here from before. The bar and grill that's over here is a great big huge buffet line, and as we're walking through here you'll also see that they've kept it up, but it's not really an improvement in some of the areas that were already existing. The zip line is still there and still really expensive to do a zip line on a private island, but as we get going across here we'll show you some of the upgrades here in a little bit. Again, beach area that just really has nobody at it. There's just no shade, nothing out here, just a bunch of beach chairs that really not a lot of people are utilizing. They're really all over at the pool where they can have a little bit better experience. Now, there is a section of chairs over here where you can get an umbrella, but in this section of the beach, these beach chairs and umbrellas, you have to pay for the umbrellas or those clamshells, unlike the pool area that they've done the improvements on, and I'm still kind of at a loss as to why in this area you're paying for umbrellas, but not at the pool area. So, and it is significant. It is over $30 for an umbrella, and I think over $50 for one of the clamshells here. And you don't even want to know what one of these little pavilion bungalow houses up on the left cost, because they are exorbitant. So I'm not even going to go into what those things cost. Now we're walking across past a lot of this area where you can rent an umbrella and a beach chair, and we're going to go over to where they have added the Vibe Shore Club over here. Now the Vibe Shore Club is an extra cost. It is $100 a person to come in here, even if you have paid for the Vibe Beach Club on board the ship. This is an extra cost. They've also tucked away one of the old eating venues, the barbecue place, inside there that you would have to pay to use, but at least you can come over to that food trailer and get yourself some decent little food to go along for your lunch that day. And that is the end of our tour of Great Stirrup Cay. Hopefully it was a little bit helpful there for you, but as we end our vacation here, heading on back out on one of the tender ships to the Luna, we're going to go ahead and jump back on board here in just a minute and grab our final dinner on board, where we decided to go back to the Commodore room and get one last dinner before we ended our cruise and headed on back over to Miami. Now, I did promise you that I would give you a full breakdown at the end of the video of what everything cost, and here we go. So all told, we spent $5,908 with NCL for all of the things that we spent on board, which in our opinion is a lot of money for a cruise that was, in all honesty, just an average cruise. It wasn't really anything exceptional. So, and I know everybody's experience is different and what they consider expensive is different. So you can take that for what it's worth, but for us, it was just a little bit much. Now, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed our video. Have a wonderful day.